Okay, so let's begin. So good afternoon, good morning, whichever and wherever time zone you are in. I'm Ankit, and I'm going to take you through how IRM has joined hands with its customer to help them navigate unforeseen risks and save millions of dollars. In the meanwhile, you can drop in a hi or let us know in the chat that which country you're from, and it's really lovely to see all of you join here with us in this webinar. So very quickly, I would like to touch down upon what us or we as an organization do and what are main areas of work. We are a risk management company and we specialize in risk advisory on ERP or enterprise resource planner systems, making your organization access, transaction, and internal fraud free. And this is an excerpt from recent survey but audit committee practices. And you can see that the topics like cybersecurity, enterprise risk management, ESG, inflation risk, digital transformation, fraud risk, and are appearing in such reports. And on the left side, you can see that internal fraud and all other frauds like fraudulent transactions and these kind of frauds are a real problem for organizations and big companies or large companies who are often relying on automated solutions like ERP systems for managing transaction needs and they also need necessary controls and automation in place. We support such large organizations in such risk-free journey, and IRM is currently powering and securing large enterprises across public sector, holding companies, airlines, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing with a continuous control monitoring platform covering access risk, transaction risk, and automated IT general controls and application controls. So we work around these broad topics, and for today's webinar, I will directly go about a few use cases which I would like to bring light upon. So what are these use cases? So over here, as you can see that there's a huge organization, and in this organization, there's a resentful employee nursing a personal grudge, which becomes a potential threat within the organization because there might be a firing that is going on against this employee. Now, armed with such access of sensitive information and data, the employee decides to exploit the position, putting the company's reputation at risk. Covertly breaching the system, the employee extracts confidential information, and this leads to a potential damage of up to $30 million dollars and a loss of trust by investors and customers. Now, after this, the organization has an internal meeting where they blame each other for such mishap and also for not predicting such risks. Similarly, let's just say, for example, again, in another case study, a global enterprise logistics giant enjoys robust growth and neglecting pandemic risk in its expansion focused strategy. COVID-19 happens and it disrupts operations, supply chains, catching the unprepared company off guard completely, sweeping it off its feet. Remote work exposes gaps in management, infrastructure, and policies, causing major productivity losses. And the pandemic induced operational challenges result in substantial financial losses and cash flow issues compounded by a downtime in market demand. Similarly, the organization has an internal meeting where they blame each other for such mishap and also not predicting such risk. Pretty, pretty scary scenario, right? Now, similarly, this is these kind of risks are not only uh, they don't only come down to pandemic risks or any form of internal frauds. They can be any form of risk where you can be a compliance issue or any form of unpredicted risks that you are not taking into consideration as an organization or an enterprise level uh, organization in general. So, how do you actually predict such risks in the ongoing system? I would like to show you one of such our products which we have actually developed, and this is actually going to help you predict such risk, assess such risk, and mitigate such risks in the future. Introducing IRM's ERM or Enterprise Risk Management. What is an enterprise risk management? Is a structured approach for identifying, assessing, and managing risks to enhance an organization's ability to achieve its objectives. It involves continuous risk monitoring and strategic decision making across all aspects of a business. Our solution is designed to address these key offerings or areas of offerings rather. It has automated compliance and risk management in it, unified GRC framework, empowered internal auditing, collaborative uh, collaborative approach, and a data-driven decision-making uh, platform in itself. Now, moving down further from here, what we have is the elements of enterprise risk management framework that we actually have settled down in this departmental priorities. So the ERMF identifies the key elements of the department's approach to managing risks. So within the whole framework, we have our own risk appetite. The risk appetite outlines the level of risk that can be taken, our risk environment, which we manage risks that emerge from your operating environment. We assess risk, where we assess risks using a structured process. Responding to risk, we regularly assess your risk, identifying trends, and respond to risks and opportunities for continuous improvement. Reporting risk, we provide assurance that risk is managed, escalated, and treated and reported in a structured format. And finally, governing the risk, where this whole cycle ends and we govern the risk through executive oversight. In each business divisions, maybe there's a risk owner, there's a chief risk officer who is able to govern this risk in each business division or region. Now, moving down from here, some of the problems that immediately our tool solves is uh, regulatory risk. And I would like to give a few examples of such risks so that you can relate a bit more on where this tool actually stands. So, for example, in regulatory risk, a change in tax laws unexpectedly increases a corporation's liabilities, impacting its financial stability. So there's also competitor risk where a rival company releases a superior product, leading to a significant loss of market share. There is a economical risk, definitely political risk, change risk, reputation risk. There's governance risk where a company's failure to comply with a new environmental regulation results in hefty fines and reputational damage. As well as there is also financial risk also, which is, for example, a sudden stock market crash that significantly reduces an investment firm's asset value. And finally, as well as operational risk, where a cyber attack rather disrupts an online bank service for several hours. So these are some of the risks which are not limited to these, but then our tools immediately caters to. And right out of the box, you can actually assess, identify, and mitigate such risks in your hand inside your organization. Now, these are all talks mostly, but I would love to show you a live demo of how the tool looks and feels. And please allow me to share my screen and bear with me for that time being. I hope my screen is visible. Tanisha, can I get a quick yes?
Yes, Ankit, available.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so this is the tool that I'm talking about, or this is a tool that we are showing to all our customers. It is called IRM's Intelligent Risk Management's ERM Enterprise Risk Management, where this is the landing page that you first come into after a login page, obviously. Now, the best part about this tool before I start is that the tool is available both on-premise as well as cloud. So depending upon the customer's organization's needs, we can actually have both of these available for you. Now, finally, coming down from here is that you see there's a My Dashboard. So now our tool has two of the main user views, which is one of this is the first thing is that the user view, and second is the admin view. In My Dashboard, as you see, this is the risk register or where all the risks are actually registered and held as a line item. You can see over here there's board risk, there's SAMA risks, there are profiles, unsustainable business, which is a risk as well. There's a risk matrix, there's ISO IEC 27001 profile for risk of compliance, there's GDPR compliance risk, there's a counter fraud risk profile, there's a Asia distribution center, and availability and dependency risks as well. Now, coming down to this, these are not the only risk registers that you get on the homepage. You also get a pinned KRI or a pinned key risk indicator, which is where there's a you can actually have all of this data that you feed to the whole system uh, jotted down in any form of graph on whichever graph of your choice. And it is completely customizable depending on the data as well and the form of graph that you want over here. So over here, some of the examples that you see is that reasons for CEO's exit and CEO turnovers in US firms, number of SQL injections inside the organization, number of ransomware attacks that you have faced, or probably average cost of employees, share price, maybe some pandemic related graphs which you actually face through the whole, or which you're predicting would be something of a problem inside the organization. So all of this can actually be looked right upon just by one glance of the risk owner. So every risk that you see over here has a risk owner on of its own, where it can be attached to anybody, and this is where the user view comes into play. So for today's demonstration purposes, I would like to go to the SAMA risk profile and give you a demonstration on that. Definitely I need to click over here. And the best part about our tool is that it not only lets you assess the whole risk, but then also identify the have an executive summary where you actually know that what this risk is all about. So for example, over here, SAMA is a central bank of Kingdom Saudi Arabia has actually made a compliance regarding where banks and all the fintech organizations have to follow some kind of specific rules and comply with some controls. And along with it, there's a trend button which goes, which is very much dynamic and it goes up, down, and in different colors, in the red, amber, green color, which depending on that, you can actually see that how is the overall risk inside the organization. Now coming down as well, you see that there is a details button over here. So details button along with it has an event, the causes and consequences of if this, what is the event that is causing the risk, what are the causes over here, find out what are the consequences which you will probably face if you do not mitigate this risk, and also a risk appetite statement from the uh, admin where they can actually see that this is the amount of risk that we can actually hold on to, as well as also specific KRIs or key risk indicators over here as well for this specific risk or line item that you can see. So number of firewall breach attempts, number of ransomware attacks, number of malware attacks, and number of SQL injections. These will keep on increasing, decreasing, and the graphs will keep changing depending upon the organization's data again and again, as I say. And finally, you move from here to the very interesting and the best part of this whole tool is that we have internally mapped most of the controls that are available in the market, most of the compliances that are available in the market, as well as the most of the risks right out of the box for any organization to go ahead and start with the whole process of risk management. Now, as I see over here, these are the controls that the organization, for example, has to comply with to be SAMA compliant. And over here, there are control types. There's a risk owner, the list of relevant controls, and control comments on effectiveness, and a control check, which will actually just be a pick, which will actually just be a drop down. And from here, you can actually do a pass and a fail. Depending on that, you can understand how this whole tool can just by one click you can pass and fail. But then over here you would also want to also upload and upload evidences against how you've actually passed this whole uh, control. So for that I would like to take you to the admin view for today. And also in the admin view, as you see over here, this is something where the admin can log in and they can also bring in their own risk register. And if I click on this Excel button over here and go to the download section and upload this risk register from here and click on upload, it will actually let you upload a risk register of your own, which you can own, bring and get it mapped completely by us or depending upon your availability, your flexibility as well. And over here, as you see, the process teams and the risk event and all of this gets mapped right over here onto a risk register table. And finally, once you're done with this, you can move into the phases. So as I kept on saying that like enterprise risk management every enterprise risk management tool or the concept of it works on mainly three basic or four basic things, which is identify, assess, uh, monitor, and finally report, rather mitigate and report finally. So all of these steps have been over here made into a stepper, like a Amazon cart system, where you move from one step to another, uh, going through the whole process of this whole circle of identify, assess, monitor, and mitigate. So for over here, one the first thing as you see on the step is that identify, which pinpoints the risk and compliance needs based on the risk library. So as I said that there's already a pre-built risk library inside our tool, and similarly you can actually identify that risk and add the risk over here onto a title, the organizations which are assigned to it, requested by the name, the group, requested on the dates, the risk level, the impact level, the likelihood level, and also all the other details that are necessary for this risk to actually be registered onto the platform from a admin's perspective. Finally, there's also scope which you can add, the risk assessment title, the risk owner you can set from here, which will finally be reflecting on the risk owner's view as we saw beforehand. The department, the risk type, and again the risk assessment as well. Now, finally, moving from here to the next step that you see is the assessment phase, where the scope is being pulled out from the identify phase by, and there's a risk assessment title as you whatever you filled in the previous page will come up over here pre-mapped, and finally a timeline of this whole assessment that you are making on this Gantt chart that is built in right into this whole tool by itself. And finally, what you can do is you can divide the whole thing into teams, and what are the team members and who are these team members or risk owners over here can also be looked at one single glance. Finally, moving to the next step again is that the it is the planning phase where you plan on the financial reportings, what are the internal audits that are going to be performed, how are we going to mitigate such risks, and what are the information regarding this, the controls that we have mapped over here, the procedures, the background information of this whole audit, and why is it happening, what is the root cause for this analysis, and the impact description. All of this has to be filled by the uh, admin, and even there's a whole co-pilot kind of a thing where the generative AI is also involved in this, and it can actually help you fill up this whole process in its own way. Now, finally, moving from here, we come to the implement stage, where we're actually going to implement controls and see how the whole organization reacts to those controls and how many of them these controls the organization is finally passing. And if you see over here, the procedure checklist, the findings, and interview summaries, progress. And now, as I said, that over here, over into the like the previous user view, there were controls, and you had to mark them as uh, yes or no. So in this yes or no format, to mark them as yes and finally be passed with that control, you have to actually submit evidences over here and attach those evidences. And whoever this evidence is coming from has to fill this out and has to be the risk owner of that vertical. And there's an execution title, the progress notes, as I said, the what is the summary of the interview with this person or the risk owner, and why is this actually passing. The evidence gets uploaded, and finally we go to next step, where you can have an overview or monitor phase. Overview and monitor phase actually has this kind of graphs where you can see that these are closed QA and NA, where these graphs will actually keep on increasing or decreasing dynamically with the data that it gets, and what are the risks that are remaining, or what are risks that are actually what are the active controls that are running inside the organization. And along with it, what you can see is that what are the issues that are coming up, what is your recommendation to this whole issue, and finally, and what is the implementation regarding this specific risk profile that you chose, and also be seen over here. And from monitor phase, we go to a report phase, where you get a report and as well as you get a risk matrix. Now, this is also the most important part along with it is that, and as I said over here, there's a download report button. Just in case if you click on that, you can download all of this into a Word document format, which is a class in its own class, generative AI into action, where it will actually make you a report of its own, summarizing all of this into one single PDF format or Word format, depending upon your flexibility. Now, in every ERM or enterprise risk management tool, the most important thing that comes right after the controls is the risk matrix, where you analyze and assess the whole risk. So for and how we have actually tried to make this whole uh, risk matrix very simple is that, as you see on your screen, this is a very classic 5 by 5 risk matrix, and it has likelihood and impact on its own, and also along with it has a legend where you can see what are these impacts are doing onto and what kind of effects they have on financial operation and safety and reputation. Now also again, this financial operation, safety and reputational changes can also be made by the admin depending on their risk appetite inside the organization. And how we have actually tried to keep this very easy for a user is that all you have to do is click on this gross risk that you are looking to have, and just drag and drop it onto one of these tiles, and this will become your gross risk. Your net risk can also be similarly assessed like this, and finally your target risk is where this lies, and you can actually drag and drop and simply set this onto the tile, and it will take in those data and take them into consideration for your assessment. So that is all from the admin's perspective. Now, finally, moving on back to the user perspective, is that now if I think you guys can relate even more, is that how this whole control check works and how you have to actually put out evidence against each of these controls to make them pass. And finally, as well as all of these actions that you are taking inside this whole tool is also being tracked on its own in a actions tab, as you see, and as well as there's a comment section where the risk owner or the admin can also add in comments regarding this whole profile of risk, and also the incidents that are happening. So let's just say, for example, if it's a cybersecurity attack, so we are trying to prepare against it. So there's a data breach test incident, there's a red team testing, there's a blue team testing, which keeps on happening over here in the incident section. And all of these incidents are taken into consideration while assessing of the assessment of the risk inside the organization, and making the making the organization even better uh, shielded towards future risks or the risks that they are currently going through. Now, and finally, the audits an audit is basically, as I said over there, whatever the risk, gross risk, net risk, target risk, and whatever the changes that you're making inside this whole tool will be reflected over here from the user perspective, and this will be restricted to the user or the admin view completely. So I think this is all from the risks perspective. Now we move on to the reports where we have our own reporting system. For example, in the report scope, if you click on the drop down, you can see that there are all this kind of different kind of reporting formats for all risk, top 10 risk, top 20 risk, a board risk profile, COVID-19 return to work, European risk profiles. Let's just, for example, today as we are doing the SAMA risk profile, we're going to click on this and we're going to see one of these dashboards maybe and submit onto it. And you can see this is a classic red, amber, green risk profile, risk assessment that you see over here for all the risks that are out there. And you can also, the best part is print and download this whole assessment into a Word document or rather a PDF, which you can further analyze and assess even further. And this whole red, amber, green actually indicates that the red means that you are into high risk, and as well as the green means that you are probably doing good, pretty good in that risk profile as well. And finally, the best part is that these 6, 16, and 25 as you see over here, this is where comes directly from your risk matrix, which you would like to set depending upon your own flexibility and risk appetite as well. This is all from demonstration purposes. And any data that you see over here is just used for demonstration purposes mostly. And I would like to, that is all for the tool perspective. I would like to go back to my presentation. Please allow me to reshare my screen and get back to that. So moving from here, these are the some of the advantages that I would like to talk about about the customers that are using our ERM. And I would like to also, I'm very proud and I'm very happy that this whole tool is right now being used by one of the biggest uh, like banking regulators right now in the Middle Eastern region. And this is soon going to be a standardized tool for managing risk inside organizations in that region as well. And along with these are some of the advantages where you can see the holistic view of the risks, alignment with strategic objectives, improved decision making skills, resource optimization, enhanced stakeholder confidence, and proactive risk management. And again, as we draw near to the whole webinar, we are an organization apart from the present product of ERM. We also cater to multiple major use cases in security, control, automation regarding segregation of duties, IT general controls and IT application controls automation, ERP role design, user access certification, one-click audit reporting, and finally, continuous control monitoring framework. And if you're interested in any one of these, feel free to touch base with us. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. And again, feel free to touch base with us. If you have any questions, you can always go back to our website and you can always drop an email to me as well. We can get in touch and give you a live one-on-one demo on how all of our tools work and how all of our product suits, how we cater and make organizations' lives better and risk-free as well. I guess with that, I think we are going to end this whole webinar. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day again. Thank you. Thank you so much.